I'll start off today by just discussing how many of us start our days. We usually just open our eyes and then immediately grab our phones, especially if they double as our alarm clocks. And this simple action can lead to a morning routine that just seems natural to us now. We'll jump right into scrolling, checking our emails, reading headlines, and seeing what we missed in our never-ending stream of stuff in our feeds and notifications. As the past few years have taught us, however, consuming news first thing in the morning can negatively impact the rest of our day. And there's a lot of current research showing more and more that this is the case. This is also not necessarily something new, since grabbing the newspaper or turning on the TV or radio can have the same effect on us. But the phones have made it so much more pervasive in our lives. We're here to tell you today that it does not have to always be this way. We've spent the last year talking to so many experts and guests about topics just like this, and one of the biggest themes we've noticed from all of them, individuals, therapists, scientists, doctors alike, is that it's important to start your day off with intention, even when things seem too busy or overwhelming.
Yes, and we know that many of the people in the audience or the people that you work with, Mia, are working professionals and also parents and extremely busy. And starting your day with intention can really make such an impact. In our parenting series, psychiatric nurse and mental health coach Sarah Baxter, she explained that filling your cup, we call it cup, she calls it bucket, is one of the most important aspects of our day. And so much of our energy, mental capacity, and center is depleted throughout the day, and our bucket's becoming empty. And so we want to know how to fill it. And nutrition, exercise, and mindfulness practice can be a great place to start. And having a morning ritual can kind of front load that and really get it overflowing before you even start your day. Many of us don't have a morning ritual. We put our feet on the floor and hit the ground running, and our minds, we kind of think, oh, I know how I want my day to go. And we try to incorporate it a little, but we're not really intentional about that. And so our team's been making so many amazing strides this year, largely due to the advice from our incredible guests. And recently we decided to go full force and really think about it and come up with a dream routine for ourselves. We've already seen really measurable an impact on our energy and our productivity and our peace. And we'd love to help you all choose 15 minutes or 30 or even an hour each morning to help fill you up as well. And so some of you might be wondering, where do you get an hour? Because we were trying to figure that out as well, because our lives are so busy and full, right? And sleep's really important for so many reasons and for our health and our mental health. So we don't want to deprive ourselves of that sleep. But turns out getting up 30 minutes early wasn't as challenging as we thought, and eliminating mindless scrolling or checking our emails made up most of the difference. And so we jumped right in and carved out an hour for ourselves. Because we're worth it. And so are you. But if you aren't comfortable with starting with an hour, you can choose 15 minutes or even 30, and it can still make such a huge impact on your day.
Absolutely. And this whole thing started in our very first episode, and we had no idea what an impact this conversation with Michael Miller, our guest in our first episode, would have on the entire year of this podcast so far. Michael Miller discusses something that none of us realized would become influential for our guests, which was his morning ritual. Ritual is his word. It's a little bit more intentional and personal, so we love it over routine, but both are great. And he first starts his day with mindfulness for exercises with the Insight Timer app. He practices gratefulness, fits in a workout, enjoys a comedic podcast to kind of make himself feel super happy first thing in the morning, all while his coffee is percolating, So he kind of reflected on what worked for him and made the time for the things that made him happy. And it was from this first episode that we began to see a thread of morning practice and its impact within the lives of many of our guests. So many guests have shared their stories with us and our listeners and ended up serving our own lives. And we're going to share with you a few guests who have embraced the morning ritual and hopefully help you visualize this practice for yourself in a way that we were able to as well. So James Boardman, a former Sergeant Royal Marine Commando, a father of four, an author, and the CEO of The Man Coach, illustrated the importance of the physical aspects of our morning routine. In his episode in the Depression series, he shared his experience with PTSD, mental and emotional health, and his ability to turn passion into purpose. He helps men suffering from identity loss find their true purpose. And so this was something that he experienced in his own journey with depression. So this work is largely about physical activity, namely running, but the same overall concepts can be applied to any area of health. So James sees his morning ritual as kind of a warm up for life. He uses 4 pillars when creating one. So the first is activity, so 10 to 30 minutes of any physical activity. And then gratitude, he calls this the anchoring of our lives because it connects us with what's going on around us and clears our minds. And then mindset, this triggers our minds and primes us. This can be reading a chapter of a book, meditation, watching a TED Talk, or an inspirational video. And then the 4th pillar is certainty. So this component, he claims, kind of smashes anxiety to the ground. What are the top 3 things you need to focus on today or this week? What is your mission this week or in this life? And so this whole routine is kind of helping you reflect on what you need and then how you can feel productive toward your goals. And so while all of these pillars carry equal weight, James knows that in order to feel his personal best, he must be physically active. So after reflecting on his personal needs and wants, he combines his physical activity with connection and gratitude, which we love to see.
Yeah. And so we all kind of talk a lot about physical, activity and things like that. So I wanted to take a moment to talk about mindfulness, as practicing mindfulness can take many different forms. Something that's as simple as a long walk or taking deep breaths, as we did at the beginning, or spending some time with our thoughts are just some of the many ways that we can include it into our own daily rituals, morning rituals. I'm sure we're all familiar with those shower thoughts or those moments in the car or train as we commute to work. That can count too. In my experience, there are also so many stereotypes on what mindfulness entails, and I have to admit that I was also extremely skeptical at first. But luckily, mindfulness practice is actually quite simple and practical, and it's so easy to fit into the things we do already every day. One thing that's made a huge difference for me and many others is mindful meditation. It's good for our hearts, bodies, and minds. Even meditating for as little as 5 minutes can reduce stress, anxiety, and depression. The folks behind apps like Headspace have a ton of convincing research behind this as well. So it's really cool to see that scientific impact, psychological impact, and all that good stuff. And Headspace also offers a free 5-minute meditation that you can try out. There are other great apps out there too. Spotify playlists, YouTube videos, things like that can get us started with mindfulness as well. We also love the Calm app personally for us. I also really, just for myself, I don't like guided meditations. My brain just doesn't seem to click with that. So instead, I'll just tune into the sounds around me, whether I'm in the house, outside, and just kind of exist with that, with my environment. And I've learned that there's also no real way to stop our thoughts, which is another misconception I had. You just kind of let those thoughts come and go, try your best not to dwell on them or grab onto them as they come. That's the true secret. But I kept shutting down my own meditations because I was having all these thoughts and I thought I was doing it wrong because they kept saying, clear your mind, and I couldn't. So now I just go with the flow, let those thoughts come and go like waves on the beach, or sometimes they're kind of, powerful waves on the rocks of the beach. So it depends on the day. And thanks to many of our guests on the podcast, we've also realized that mindfulness can happen in just about any area of our lives, including things we do already. We spoke with author and educator Pauline Beaumont about her book, Bread Therapy, and she helped us understand that human psychology and the art of bread making can help us understand the importance of appreciating every day. She also feels that there's a synergy between therapeutic work, writing, and baking bread that is fulfilling creatively and interpersonally. We've also applied this to other areas of our own lives when we're cooking, baking, brewing some tea or coffee, or even mixing cocktails, and so much more.
Yeah, absolutely. And like meditation, journaling can clear our minds, and it serves many purposes. It helps us untangle our thoughts and allows us to reflect, grieve, or practice gratitude. It can make you feel really vulnerable, and I think that's why a lot of people don't like it. And that part I'm not really great with either. I don't like that about journaling, but it allows me to have some time to think about the things I'm grateful for. And so in my daily planner, I'll just write the things I'm grateful for at the bottom so that I can see that all day. And that's kind of as far as I go with journaling. But so many of our guests and so many of our listeners love and see true value in journaling. One of our guests was journalist in Miss Wisconsin, USA, Gabriella Day. And she had been participating in pageants all of her adult life and discovered her why and how it sparked a new sense of self and impacted the way that she treats her body. And she previously lived under the misconception that her value was determined by how she looked on the outside. And so after learning her why, and she actually incorporated this and learned about it while she was in the pageants from one of her coaches, it kind of transformed her into being her best and most balanced version of herself. And then we also met with Melanie Lockhart, and she writes and journals breakup letters to debt. And it's a philosophy that's allowed her to get out from under crippling student loans. And this was in our financial series. And after she reflected and shared her journey online, others around the world chimed in and started sharing their own debt stories and writing letters to debt and breaking up with debt as well. And she used journaling as a method to take positive steps and dream about life after death. Sorry, life after debt, not death. But that's a really big, important part of it too, because journaling can be a way to dream a bit, which is so nice. And then journaling can also be used as a tool. So food psychology coach Rita Glynn shared with us her journey with health and well-being and explained how listening to our bodies provides insight into our relationship between the foods that we eat and the way that we feel. And she encouraged us to have an appreciation for our symptoms, and journaling about what we eat and how we feel afterwards helps us to understand and pay attention to the symptoms, and then we're able to respond in a way that feels more manageable. She claims that being a steward of your own health can make all the difference in your life, and so using journaling in that way might be really meaningful to you as well.
Thank you so much. Go ahead, McKenna.
Yeah, these are just a few examples. And so no matter what aspect of self-care is best for you, after some self-reflection, a strong morning ritual has been one of the most rewarding lifestyle changes that each of us has made. And I personally sat down, thought about my values and my goals, personal, financial, career goals, and created a routine that best suits my wants and needs. And so as a journalist and writer, I always have to keep my creative mind absorbing written works. And thus my routine includes a significant amount of reading and writing for pleasure. And then with a breaking news background, I had to kind of, we talk about writing breakup letters to debt. I kind of had to write mental breakup letters to the 24-hour news cycle. And so I always feel the need to be in tune with current events. And so reaching for the phone first thing is very compelling. However, after this year, like many others, I became quite overwhelmed with absorbing too much news. And so I reserve my news intake for the evenings, specific sources, and sometimes take a break altogether. And the same goes for social media. Instead, I reach for my book, I drink water, I stretch, I go for a jog in the park, kind of soak up some nature, and come back feeling really energized and ready to tackle anything the day brings because my mind and body feel taken care of. We've talked about how we've taken so much from our guests, And I now include micronutrients in my routine after our conversation with Doctors Ruckledge and Kaplan in the depression series, where they shared their scientific research about micronutrients in the brain. And I also meditate with a Muse headset, which is something that we were turned on to by Dr. Trish in the anxiety series. So this just goes to show how much we've personally taken away from these episodes and used to reflect on, my own personal needs and then implemented them as necessary.
So for my own routine, thank you, McKenna, that was amazing. I liked what you said about just kind of tuning in with yourself, checking in with yourself and seeing what's going on in the world around you as well as just for you. And for me, I kind of like to keep my morning routine a little bit flexible. I still like to bring in that intention every day, but my brain is a little chaotic sometimes, so I can't stick to that same exact routine every single day. But like with McKenna, I will just kind of see what's going on that day, how I'm feeling. I might grab a book, like McKenna said. But my personal routine starts with trying to drink at least a glass of water, since drinking a glass of water can really help reinvigorate, rehydrate, and wake your body up as well as your mind. It's also a great way to kind of get out of that I want to stay in bed mode as well, in a really easy way. And then I try to have a little bit of mindfulness, whether that's formal meditation or if I'm just kind of going outside and enjoying nature for a little bit on the patio. Just kind of checking in with my mind, just reflecting, maybe remembering some of the dreams I had or something like that, seeing what that means for me. And then I've recently started gardening, which has been a huge part of my routine. And that ticks a lot of boxes for me. I learn more about nutrition, ecosystems, biology, agriculture, and it helps me connect with the earth. It helps ground me, just kind of gives me something to really take care of and feel connected with. And that was actually really difficult to start making a routine because it seemed so overwhelming and it seemed like a huge thing to get into. But after I kind of got used to it, it became a routine or a commitment that was only a few minutes per day for most of the days. And part of that actually became some of the research I was doing into the gardening. Like we talked about the micronutrients earlier in the soil. So I started researching soil and seeing what types of soils I needed to use, what types of plants would grow best in my area, which plants need to be planted next to each other, which should be avoided, and things like that. So I found that to be really rewarding. And then after I check on all the plants, all the babies, I then make some coffee or tea in a manual kind of way. So I try to avoid like a coffee machine or something like that. And I try to do a pour over that's more intentional, takes some more time for mindfulness and things like that. So that's mine.
Yes, and Sean's garden is absolutely gorgeous, by the way. Like Sean, I like to double dip whenever I can. And so I encourage you, if you're short on time, taking a walk with a friend, gets your body moving and gives you time with someone that you care for, or snuggling your child and reading a book. Just doing things that you want to accomplish, you can kind of double up on them and really still be intentional and do special things. I actually do my grateful practice when I'm in bed. So when my alarm goes off, I just lay on my back and just like think about the things that I'm grateful for right in that moment, because I want to get out of bed having already put that in my mind. I exercise and I use iFit because it takes me all around the world, and I love traveling so much, and there are so many beautiful places that I can see and learn about while I'm on the treadmill or running or walking. I read a chapter of a book because Sean and I are educators. And so we read a lot, but not often for pleasure. And so I was listening to books in the car, but I was feeling like it wasn't the way that I wanted to consume the information. So now I sit down and read a chapter each morning, and it just takes a few minutes. And I'm moving to Miami next year. And so I need to brush up on my Spanish. So I've made it an intention of mine to practice my Spanish for 10 minutes and then to meditate for 10 minutes. And I use the Muse headset as well because I'm not great at meditating, and it really, really helps like guide me, and it gives me like little rewards, and it's, which I need, I guess. But a pro tip is that you can purchase those. They're an investment. So if you're not great at meditating and you really want to do it and you like the idea of the Muse headset, you can buy them on like Amazon Marketplace used, and save a lot of money that way.
Yeah. So I love the Spanish, the language idea, because I think as an adult learning a new language, it can be extra difficult, especially when you're not yet in the place where you would be immersed. And so to just spend 5 or 10 minutes, there's a lot of apps out there that allow you to do that. So I think that's great. I think we'd love to talk now a bit about how you all can kind of think about some simple ways to build a morning ritual. So, we have created a morning ritual builder to help you reflect on your goals and values and find a plan that works best for you. So, I'll just give you a little introduction to that. So some of the we offer some starter questions, and you can come up with your own, of course, but some things we like to ask ourselves when we're coming up with a new morning routine is what do I keep telling myself I want to do but don't make time for? So this might be the learning a language, for example. What brings me joy? So maybe sitting and having your cup of tea in silence, before the kids wake up or before you have to head out to your job. What is something I could do that's just for me? Because we have so many responsibilities, especially people with families, and we're always wanting to help others. And so we don't always, if we're already not making time for ourselves for a morning routine, often a lot of the things that we're doing we find are for other people. So what can we do that's just for ourselves? And what is something that I've always wanted to try? I recently took up violin lessons this year. What do I wish I knew more about? So if you feel like you need intellectual stimulation in the morning, something, learning something new, that's a great place to start. And what goals do I have for myself? Because like I mentioned with James Boardman in one of our episodes, he talks about setting your intention and your mission for the day. Let's think about our goals. And then that's that intent aspect. And that's a great place to start, I think, with those questions.
Yeah, absolutely. And Sean learning about his garden and the soil and all that.
Yeah.
There's so many fun, weird facts about plants that I've learned through it too.
Amazing. So the resources for Fuel Your Fire, I just saw that Mia put them in the chat, so you can click and find the morning ritual builder there, which also includes links to blog posts that we created just for you, and also links to some materials and episodes that might fuel you. There's a meal prep. If meal prep is something that you're interested in, there's a link to 5 healthy breakfasts for your brain, and also 5 fab brain healthy wraps. And we just want you to know that we care about your wellness and growth, and that we'd love to be part of your morning ritual. So we're on a summer break right now for the podcast, but feel free to catch up on episodes for anxiety, nutrition, parenting, coping, financial health, and also we have a depression series that we just wrapped up. All summer long, you can join us on Instagram, and we have giveaways and resources and lives that we do with all kinds of different guests. And please reach out and engage and let us know if there are some topics that might help you on your journey.
Thank you guys so much for bringing the fire this morning and really pouring in so much of the not only educational material that I really did fall in love with you guys with, and you bring such a powerful understanding in our modern world. And to each of you, thank you so much for being vulnerable and sharing like how it's going in each of them. I love that you're breaking up with news and getting your hands dirty. And Karen, I know you will forever be a teacher, so I can only imagine, how it feels, as life evolves. And as a holistic nutritionist and with even clients in the room, we know that the identity we create inside of our choices, inside of how we spend our time, inside of who we really want to be, takes a focus on the future. And every time you're intentional with those minutes, even 5, kind of like McKenna said, you're able to say, you know what, I'm actually creating that person. And I think it takes immense forgiveness to honor that, it's not perfect and that there's things we need to clean up in our past. And, I know you talk so much mental health and those things too. And so stepping into a place where you feel intimate and connected is so just enriching. So each of you, I'm so blessed that you guys came, and the generator looks so cool. I was like, what is their gift? And I was like nerding out about it too.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you for having us. What you're doing is incredible. And yeah, having a morning ritual, even if, like you said, it's for 5 minutes, it feels good. And it can be hard to stay on track with it, right? Like with any habit. But if you start small and you just give that gift to yourself every single day for a week or two, I've noticed in my life, and McKenna and Sean have mentioned the same thing, that it really does make you feel really excited to get up in the morning and start doing that thing that you're passionate about, or that you love, or that's important to you.
Yeah. And the last thing I want to, because what came up when you said that is the pressure is excitement. It's not this extra thing, your coach or, the podcast you listen to is asking you to add on to your plate. There's this fine line in personal development, being a hardcore busy professional, right? And like crushing it and honoring where you're at in that moment. And I've had even people like really close to my heart say, just getting out of bed is dreadful. There's this suck zone of like, I'd just rather stay here. There's too much going on out there. Or, if I don't grab my phone, then like I'm going to be behind. And a tip to give all of you is, in that first moment that you're batting your eyes open, like I'm all about micro moments, like check out that bedspread. And if you don't like it, find one that really brings you this like, ooh, I'm comfortable, I'm yummy, I love the world and life around me. Acknowledge some of those things, the fact that, right, we can be in a quiet space and honor the sounds. Sean, I think you were talking about like, just like, oh, wow, there's like a bird, like I'm part of nature. And we forget that, right? Especially when we're on screen so much now in just the modern world, and none of this is going anywhere. So I think balancing a fine intimacy with being a natural being on this natural planet, which is something, we're going to talk about later today, but is just so critical to keeping you in that space of equilibrium, so you can keep kind of stepping and leveling up into what you want.
Absolutely.
Yeah, that's a great point, Mia. I'm so glad you brought that up, because this isn't something meant to be put on your, like added to your already quite full bucket or cup, like we always talk about, and put on your plate. This is for you. So to fuel you and make you feel whole and like yourself and confident and comfortable. And so that's where that self-reflection piece will really help when building your morning ritual, to find out what you need that doesn't feel overwhelming.
Yeah, and I think, sorry.
Go ahead.
Well, I just wanted to chime in really quick on when you feel that pressure, if you're building your routine and some mornings are a little slower or you don't have that time, you have to be kind to yourself as well. And do remember what McKenna just said, it is for you. So you don't have to, beat yourself up if one morning you don't stick to the ritual or routine. And then one really quick tip on what Mia said about dreading getting out of bed. If you struggle with that as well, one really quick, simple, practical thing I've done is, if you use your phone for your alarm, put it on the other side of the room or in a place that you have to get up to go turn off in the morning, instead of, just reaching over. And then next to it, put a glass of water, because you'll go to get your phone, turn off the alarm, and then you'll drink that glass of water. And then by then it's over. You have to be up now. So hopefully that helps someone if you're struggling.
Yeah.
That's really smart. I know as a parent, it feels like you give sometimes, you give all of your energy, all of your love, all of your time to your kids. And when I was a younger parent, I didn't make time for myself. And it's one of my big regrets. I wish I would have given myself 15, 30 minutes or an hour each morning to do the things that bring me joy, so that I could pour into my kids even more. And I didn't realize that I didn't have to just get up and get going, that I couldn't say, mom needs a moment, this is my time, get a book, do your like whatever it is. So I wish I would have done that.
I love that. Such a great pattern to remember. Well, the HIP podcast and everything that you guys are doing is enlightening. I'm sure you deserve this summer, of not being in that. And so use that self-care for yourself. And on social media is a great place and resource. I highly recommend each of you sitting in this room, go in and generate your morning. There's a reason why we brought these powerful people around to pour into you. So believe that, believe this was meant for you, believe that there's something on the other end of that link that can clear something up that's been holding you back. Thank you all so much for being here.
Thank you, Mia.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.